Every sports fan has an opinion. Well, these are ours. Welcome to Brock and Pep's Unsportsmanlike Convo.
Ready? Right.
And here are your hosts, Brock Fleming and Pep Cariotti.
All right. We're live. Pierre, you can hear me?
I can hear you, and I can't believe, everything went on without a hitch today. This is awesome.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I might have pressed go live a little bit earlier because I wanted to, again, go over what we were going to talk about today to make sure we're on the same page. Mm-hmm. Then I pressed live, and that was it. We were go time.
We gave our fans a behind-the-scenes look at how we prepare.
Yeah, a little bit of scatterness. Yeah, it happens, and it happens often with us. But, okay, we're going to get right into it. There's a couple things that I thought were noteworthy of bringing up. Today is a Jays episode. This is a Blue Jays episode. Did I put that in the title of the test video? No, it's something that we'll figure out afterwards. But I see you got your Jays gear on.
Edwin Encarnacion?
Nice. I had my Pilar jersey on, and then I was like, I can hardly do it up, so I'm probably not going to do that in front of the camera. Obviously, it's an exciting time for the Jays. Before we get into the Jays, because we do have a guest with us today, our resident baseball expert, and you'll know who it is shortly. Do you have anything you'd like to touch on before we get into that? Because there's a few hot topics right now in sports, and I know we kind of, I don't know if you want to say we shy away from bringing some of that stuff up, but I think it's also very important to acknowledge, with the recent police shooting, there's a lot of talk about protesting. So there's within the NBA, especially protests from the Raptors and the Celtics, from the Bucks today, on whether or not they're actually going to play a playoff game in protest. I know the Detroit Lions, did not practice the other day. I think other teams may have followed suit as well, but that is a hot topic right now. And I just wanted to know if maybe you had any thoughts on that without getting into too much stuff. I don't want it to make it all about that right now, but I haven't asked you about it. So,
well, the Milwaukee Bucks situation is literally within the last half hour. They were scheduled to play at 5. I'd have to check the time. It was a late afternoon game. That looks delicious, by the way. Basically, they didn't show up. They didn't show up for warm-ups. Okay. Orlando, I don't know if Orlando was aware because they did warm up. And when they realized that Milwaukee wasn't coming on the court, and I think discussion had already been taking place that they may not play the game. So I don't think Orlando was overly surprised, but they did come out on the court to warm up, waited for Milwaukee to come out, didn't see that they were coming out, and left the court themselves. What does that mean for the game? The NBA has to pipe in. There's rules and regulations. I can't see Adam Silver, who's been a huge proponent of Black Lives Matter and the movement, defaulting a win for Orlando. I just don't see that happening. In lieu of what has happened recently in Wisconsin, which is where Milwaukee plays, it would be such a bad look if the Orlando Magic took a game and brought the series to 3-2 in this particular manner. So
I think that would also have led to, or would lead to, an overall protest from every player and every team in the NBA, I think, of just not playing.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, totally. And so I think we'll see this sort of, the game will be rescheduled. I mean, I don't know where they're going to go with this. Like, if you heard Doc Rivers last night and you heard Giannis Antetokounmpo when he was giving his Defensive Player of the Year award speech last night with his teammates behind him, I mean, he was visibly shaken. And again, do they know the young man who was shot? No, but he represents an entire community who, unfortunately, are treated differently when it comes to criminal activity and when it comes to punishment, when it comes to dealing with police. I mean, to say that they're dealt on the same level as white people is just the stats don't show that. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And if I can give, I want to make a really bold statement here, just based on where I live. I live in downtown Hull. Pros and cons. Pros, convenient, super diverse neighborhood. I mean, I've got a retired diplomat next door to me. I got a retired artist 2 doors down. Like, really cool neighborhood. Close to everything, easy access, affordable. Cons, a lot of foot traffic, different socioeconomic levels, incomes all around this neighborhood. What we see on CTV whenever there's a crime in Ottawa, whenever there's a crime in the Outaouais, anywhere really, generally speaking, we see somebody, a visible minority who's wanted or a suspect in a video cam, generally speaking. Okay? Mm-hmm. We have the exception, or I mean, everybody commits crime, but generally what we see on CTV when it's reported, I mean, that's what we see. And that's not the case always. And if I were to say, just from the eye test of where I live, okay, just the eye test, I'm not making a blanket statement. I'm just telling you what I've witnessed in my 15 years in this location, is most of the trouble that's happened on my street over the course of the last 15 years or in my neighborhood, from what I've seen, like what I've actually witnessed, not what I've read, but what I've actually seen with my own eyes, have been white people. So, and again, I'm not making a blanket statement that, hey, all white people in Hull are criminals, but that's what I've witnessed. And I've also witnessed police deal with them differently than when they've dealt with the visible minority. So, I mean, I've witnessed it. I mean, I've experienced it. I've called police on an incident that I saw up the street. When the police came, they questioned me because I was English and I'm visible minority. I'm like, no, those are the guys. I'm the one who made the call. Morons. So, yeah. And I'm just one guy. So I can imagine what everyone's going through in the States. And that's, I mean, I've probably gone on way longer than I actually wanted to on this topic. But again, I'm not making any blanket statements. This is just the eye test, what I've witnessed in my own community. So do I feel like there's one race that causes more trouble than the other? Absolutely not. It's widespread, and it's anybody and anybody who wants to commit a crime, they're going to do it, whether they're black, white, red, whatever. So anyways, all that to say, you know, it's a sad day right now that the NBA is having to do this and sports are having to actually boycott games. And if for guys like you and me who are sports fanatics, kind of sucks.
It sucks outside of the sports world, period. So this transcends sports. It's bigger than sports. You know, but I don't want to make it all about the race right now, because we do have a Jays program we want to do. You know, ultimately we had the bitch ass white boy that comment that was made in the NBA, and we had a discussion on our Facebook page, and it's there's different points of view all over the place. I think I get it that people are calling the league a hypocritical league because they're making a big thing about slander against blacks, but then if it's a comment against whites, it's not as strict. And I have my own feelings on that. I mean, being called white has never been taken in a negative connotation ever in history. And I think there's a disconnect there for people who see it as being the same, as being a slandering comment, calling somebody a white boy versus a black boy or whatever. There's differences there that are historically deeper, and I'm disappointed with some where they feel like it's not, and it should be treated the same. And I just feel like they're missing the point completely. Again, I don't want to get into a lot of it, but that was something that was brought up on our page, and I had some back and forth and some discussions with people, and those are my feelings anyway. And again, yep. I went to school in the States. I have a lot of really good friends who are African American, who are American, and there is a difference between a Canadian and American African American. Black person who lives in the States versus in Canada, and how they're treated and how it goes. But that's not to say that Canada doesn't have their own problems. Our guest actually brought up a good point in terms of the protests with the NBA. When you start protesting games, what is it going to take for you to get back on the court? You know what I mean? So like you can protest it, but is there something now where you're saying, look, we're going to protest until this happens? And what is this? Is it just a protest to say, you know what, like this is bigger than the sports, and we're big. We understand that it's bigger than the sports, so we're just not going to play in a playoff game, which is unheard of. Or is it a protest until something changes, in which case, how do we know, or what is that change that has to happen for them to get back on the court?
No, I think they're statements. I think they're not going to be long-term situations. It's a statement. And if it continues, they'll make another statement, a bigger, bolder statement. So I think it's just step two. You know, step one was the jerseys and the logos and insignia on the court and getting the message out. This is step two. I don't even know. I don't even want to think about what step three would be. But I know personally, and oftentimes I talk about the UC, and I don't want to ever talk on your behalf, but I feel like you and I have the same sort of moral, ethical vision of the world. So, but I do want to say that I support the movement. I support
100%.
People not losing their lives, even if they have a history. They don't deserve to die. If someone pulls a gun on a police officer, it's a different situation. But like these guys are trained to take people down without using deadly force. They're trained for that. Yeah. So a guy runs away, you're trained to chase him and catch him or whatever you have to do, but you're not trained to put your knee on his neck until he stops breathing, and you're certainly not trained to shoot him 7 times in the back when he's trying to get into his vehicle with his kids in the back and his wife yelling on the other side of the vehicle. Like, I mean, I feel stupid even saying that. Like, it's common sense. So, but the issue they're protesting are the lack of punishment for these police officers. Like the Breonna Taylor situation, those guys haven't been punished yet. They went in and killed somebody innocent who was sleeping. So like I think that's where the issue lays here. And that's anyway, all that to say, I support the movement, and if people who don't understand the movement and are more like along the lines of the all lives matter, I just don't think now's the time to play that card, even if it's what you really feel in your heart. Have a little sympathy for a community that's right now up in chaos. What we're seeing right now in down south of the border it's just chaos. It's chaos. So yeah, I hope it gets better.
And it's for those people, it's when they make that argument of all lives matter, or bitch ass white boy is the same as being called a black slander.
The N-word.
That kind of is solidifying the whole white privilege thing in my eyes. You're a straight white male, likely, who says that. I just don't see that from anybody else who's been in a minority group. Anyway, again, to go on. Okay, so happier news. Okay, to a point. The Washington football team has hired the first African-American president in NFL history with the hire of Jason Wright. So, I know he's a former player, left playing professional football and went and got, extended his degrees and got into that kind of realm. And he's finally broken a barrier that's been standing for a long time. So that's a positive in the right direction. So I'm happy that the Washington football team, lack of a better name, is doing that kind of stuff. I know. I thought there's still rumors that there might be another thing coming up, but
I think they're committed to the football team name for this season, I think.
Oh yeah, they're committed to the most general team name that you can possibly get.
I kind of like the number on the helmet though. Have you seen them with that? It doesn't look bad. I just attach a name to it. I like Red Wolves. You've seen some of them, the mock-ups.
Some of those, yeah. It was had a Game of Thrones sort of feel to it.
While we're on the topic of Washington, yes, they hired Jason Wright. Yes, I think they're bringing in the right people with Ron Rivera and that crew, and I really like what they're doing there. Happy story with Alex Smith, getting himself off the physically unable to perform list, although his leg looks like a big piece of mashed meat. Apparently, he's practicing on it. I don't know how. But unfortunately, some more crappy news out of Washington. The owner and some of his ex-employees are officially been accused of sexual harassment and misconduct. So there's an official case against them now. The owner, that's what's his name? Schneider. So he's going to be in some hot water. The best thing that can happen with Washington football, they're all making all the right moves right now, is for him to get the hell out of Dodge. They got to figure out a way to get him out. The NFL maybe has to step in and say, look, you don't meet all the requirements that we have as a league in terms of value, in terms of morality.
Yep.
I don't know. Can they do that?
No, because money talks, and NFL is a league that supports money more so than anything else. That's paramount for the NFL. Also, I believe it's former running back out of Washington Football Club and LSU, Darius Geis, has been accused of raping multiple women while at LSU, I think. It was during that stint, but he is accused of it, which is, again, not a great look and not something that Washington should want to be associated with. So
it's like Lawrence Phillips, same situation with some of the crap that happened to him in college, and then Rams said, "Screw it, we'll draft him anyways." Yeah, that didn't end well,
No, rest in peace.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, one more thing before we go to the Blue Jays, or a couple more things, but NHL has stripped the Coyotes of their first and second round picks because they violated a combine testing policy. Did you hear that?
I did not. What's the combine testing policy?
I have no idea. I mean, clearly they broke the rules when testing a player, or
is this club not run by the NHL?
The Coyotes, yeah, aren't they? Are they not?
They're owned and ran by the NHL. How does the NHL's own team screw up combine testing rules that the NHL has put in place?
We're going to have to look that up. Curtis, if you're watching, can you look that up? Who owns the Coyotes and who screwed up? But, a first and second round pick for a team that's, perpetually rebuilding every year, that's a big deal.
This is the first time they've got, were they in the second round? Or they just get out in the first round? First round they're out.
They won they won that opener or whatever, and then they got destroyed in the second round.
So maybe if the NHL just released that, maybe the NHL was waiting for them to drop their draft pick number to enough where they could say, you know what, we'll forego this year. If they had lost in the first round and won that first overall pick, maybe they don't friggin' do it. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, Curtis, find that out. Our fact checker.
Congratulations to Nick Nurse for winning Coach of the Year. Well deserved. Guy's taking his team. Right? I mean, the guy took a team that lost their best player and really didn't replace them with anybody. Everyone just sort of moved up the pecking order, and they're still now the favorites to come out of the East. No offense to Milwaukee, although Milwaukee now might be supercharged to play. But he just came out today and said that after the Jacob Blake shooting, a couple of Raptors thought about leaving the bubble. And once you leave the bubble, you're out for 14 days if you come back. Yep. So they didn't. They haven't. But just him coming out and saying that, clearly there's some discussion that some players, want to make a bigger statement. So that's pretty wild. Looks like
as Van Vliet was probably on there because he had a couple of comments where
Norm Powell as well.
Yeah.
Rockets and Thunder have decided to boycott their Game 5. That's just breaking news. Sorry, I'm just coming up. It's hot and heavy on my feed here. The Pacers fired Nate McMillan. I know that, if you don't follow basketball closely, then it might not be a big deal, but he squeezed every ounce of talent he had from that team. They played against the Heat in the first round, and really the Heat, they didn't have their best player with Domantas Sabonis out. Well, how he got fired is it's just a travesty. The NBA really needs to look into these firings because, he's a great coach. And the fact that the Pacers did as well as they did, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So shame on you, Indiana organization, for firing a good guy in Nate McMillan, who really, really did well with that team. So crazy stuff. Claude Julien says he'll coach next year. I'm assuming he means in Montreal, but good to hear that he's going to make 100% recovery. And that's all I got for my headlines, Brock. If there's anything that you need to bring up, now's the time.
No, there's a new order for UC hats. I got one. So he's actually designing.
Close up your logo there?
No, can't. It's not going to look like this anyway. We're so locked in here right now. I'm on a love seat next to our guest, so it's tight. I got the little table I have here that has my Rodecaster. I got the camera back there. I have my mic here. I literally am in a cockpit. I can't get out. If there's a fire, okay.
Hopefully
But the logo he's taking the circle off. He's making the mic bigger and the stars nice and big, and he's going to have our names properly. Anyway, it's going to be. I like it. I think I like the look of it. It's going to look pretty cool. Anyway, we got a bunch of trucker hat styles that we're ordering, so we'll probably have a couple of giveaways. And if anybody's looking to get one of those, they can hit me up, and we'll have a few for sale.
Love it.
All right, I think that is all the pre-business we need to figure out. We do have a guest with us today, and if for those who have listened before, when we talk Jays, we generally bring this gentleman on. He has executive producer credits usually with our show, and we're hoping to get him a little bit more involved, especially as we start doing these live things, because they would be very handy. But welcome to the show. We have Mike Bignat here. How's it going?
Big Mikey. Oh,
Doing well.
we got mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2. Damn it.
No, it was so smooth. You jinxed us there for sure. Tap on the
Is
mic.
he on?
Oh, hold on. Mute. That's on me.
Test 1 2.
There we go.
There we are.
We got him.
I'm here.
Nice. Mike, welcome back, buddy. I ran into you a couple days ago at the Canadian Tire. What
That's
were you
right.
buying there?
I went looking for an umbrella, outdoor umbrella. You know, one of those offsetting
umbrella.
ones that sort
Yep.
of overdo the overhang. And no dice. Yeah, nothing. I was hoping to get one on clearance, before the fall, and nothing doing. Yourself?
Crappy Tire's got to step up their game. They
I
got to
know.
step up their game, man. I've been there twice for things I was looking for, and they didn't have it.
Here's the thing. Stop calling them Crappy Tire, and maybe they'll pick things up.
They got to start living up to that.
Did you see that Lamborghini right in front of us when we were chatting?
Yes. I was going to
Wow.
lean on it like it was mine and say, "Oh, hey, Pap, how's it going?"
Hey, I just got this is my new car. Wow, beautiful. Anyways,
Were you wearing jorts
welcome.
and like a mullet too, like one of those kind of old
Me,
school?
sorry,
No?
was he me?
Mike.
Him?
No.
Oh.
No? All right. Just checking.
Hey,
Fair
boys.
question.
The reason we're here are the Toronto Blue Jays were up roughly they're getting close to the halfway mark now.
28 games,
and-
I think.
The Jays sit a half game ahead of the Baltimore Orioles for the last playoff spot. Some teams that we thought might push for a playoff spot aren't doing so well. When I talk about a couple teams, I'm talking about Boston Red Sox, who are 10-20, and the LA Angels, who I thought would step up. They spent a boatload on Carlos Rendon, but they have just zero pitching, and it just goes to show you that pitching wins games, because there's some of the best hitting teams in the American League are nowhere close to the playoffs. So, are we excited for the Jays? Are you excited about what you've seen so far in the first half before we get into the sort of player profiles?
So they've done sort of where I thought they'd be, but where they could be is sort of frustrating, because you think of the number of one-run games they've lost, the number of games they've been in that they've blown leads, and they could
Just against Tampa alone.
right, and they could be so much better. Boston,
Tampa's
too.
the most frustrating one to watch. They seem to be on all the time. They've played them probably the most since they came back, and they're always in a position to win, and it feels like they let it slip away, or they do something to give up a lead. Like it seems like it's there, but for Tampa, it just seems like a hurdle they can't really get over.
100%. And that's going back, I don't know, 15 years, 10 years. They play nightmarishly bad in the Trop, and then just can't seem to win a series no matter where it is. Now they split one on the weekend, which was, considering how good Tampa is, it's you got to pat yourself on the back for that, but you can't dwell on it. In other words, now they're playing Boston. They're going on this string against teams that are the weaker teams.
500.
Exactly. And those are the games you have to focus in on and say, this makes or breaks our season right now. Like, as you say, Pat, approaching the halfway point. And these are the games you got to put yourself in a position to say, we're going to be a playoff team. Get yourself over the hump now.
Does anybody else love the 60-game schedule?
You know
Or is it
what?
just
I
me?
don't hate it. I somewhere in between 162 and 60, I think I'd be happy. Like an 82 game season for me. See some pitchers pitch a few more games.
Did you say between 162 and 160? So 161 is the magic number? Oh, okay.
Yeah, 161 would be great. No, like 80 to 100 for me would be the perfect amount. That extra 62 is 2 extra months, and it's just it goes on too long. But I think 100 games, somewhere between 82 to 100 games, I'd be more than happy with, and then you start your playoffs. But it is a race. It's a race, and every game matters, And the game last night, before we go into who's been playing well, who hasn't, and what the Jays have done well and what they haven't, the game last night was a kind of a microcosm of the entire season. Up 6-3, a few mental errors. I'm not a fan of what's going on with Guerrero right now on the defensive end of the spectrum. I think his hitting will come around once he gets himself in some better shape. But, right now what I'm seeing from him on the defensive end has not been impressive. He can't scoop up the ball on a bouncer. He let one just blew by him late game last night. Devers hit a big, I think it was a 3-run double or triple. Yeah. Was it a tough play? Yeah, but you have to ask yourself, if Shaw or Tellez or Smokey was playing there, does that ball get by? Does he at least bat it down? So I don't know. What are you guys? How do you guys feel about Guerrero right now in terms of his overall fitness, his defense, and his hitting?
So defensively, at third base, he's a liability for sure. And in a perfect scenario, he'd be doing something else, first or DHing would be the optimal thing. Physically, I think he is out of shape. I think, if I remember correctly, he came into spring looking good, and I think as soon as the season was postponed, I guess he hit the buffet hard. I don't know, but he's definitely he came back this summer and sort of never had it. The body issue thing became a talking point at the summer training. And what was your last question? There was physically, defensively.
How's his hitting? How's his defense?
His hitting definitely could
improve.
His game. He has to at least manufacture runs, hitting where he is in the order. Either bump him down if he's not getting it done, or he's got to produce runs, sac flies, drive-in runs. There's been too many occasions where, I don't know what his average is with runners in scoring position, but he's not getting it done, and that's it. Again, they're losing these one-run games where that's the difference. Is your number 3, number 4, depending where he's hitting, 5 hitter is not driving in the guys that are on base.
Yeah, and last night, even within one game, he stranded the bases loaded by hitting into a double play. But then, 3 innings later, he hits a 2-run single, a big hit that put him up 6-3. So even within one game, he can be frustrating to watch. But, again, he's just a kid. We have to remember, I think he's only 21 or 22 years old, still a young man. But he really, he needs to address his body now.
Yeah.
This is not something that you want to start trailing into your mid-20s. Look at Cecil Fielder, could have had a lot longer a career had he taken care of his body. Am I saying Vladdy Cecil? No, but he's big.
Even Prince Fielder is another one. I remember when he became a free agent, the Jays said, no, we're not looking at him because here's a guy who, given his body type, he's got another couple good years and then he'll nosedive. And it might not have gone exactly like that, but it wasn't far off either. I think it might have been 3 years, and then it just became, there's this huge contract with a guy that's underperforming and is never healthy.
And just make one more point on his.
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, just to make one more point on his on the. I want to put the rest of the body. I don't want to be focused on the fact that he's overweight, because we've seen overweight athletes succeed in the past, but it's one of those situations where if your body is functioning optimally, you have things like fewer injuries, you're more agile, your body recovers quicker, game in, game out, so you're ready to play the next night. Just your overall mobility and flexibility. When we talk about the best baseball players in the world, I think about Pedro Martinez. Was he a muscle-bound guy? No, he was a lean, lanky guy who could throw 150 pitches, and then you could throw him out 2 nights later and do the same thing. That I don't see that with Vladdy. I see stiff. I see rigid. I see he could barely pick up the ball on a grounder. This is just the eye test from a casual fan. I don't even know what it looks like in person. It might be. I'm sure it's a lot better in person. But what I see is a guy who's limiting himself because he's got a few extra pounds.
Tried to find the average of the runnings and scoring position, but I can't find it anywhere. I don't know where they'd find that. And speaking of tall and lanky and whatever, have you seen, again, we're going to come right back, but the Cleveland Indians pitcher that you posted?
Yeah.
You posted a clip on Facebook, and you said, look at this guy. And I thought I was watching, initially, when they first showed him, I thought I was watching like a high school or like a Little League World Series thing. And then he starts whipping this ball, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, he's going against Major League. This is Major Leagues right now. I thought it was like a 12-year-old from Puerto Rico who was throwing 100 miles an hour, which was impressive enough. And now this guy's in the majors.
I think that was a situation too where it wasn't. I think it may have been in his like second or third outing, or maybe even his first outing. So the hitters didn't know what he had to bring, and he's got a little bit of a funky delivery. But yeah, no, it was. He did a great job. But back to Vladdy. I mean, what do you think about that, Mike? Like his body type limiting him?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. Yeah, you look at even some of the heavier set guys that did have longer, better careers, Pudge Rodriguez and stuff like that. Those were guys that were more, if I can say, in shape given their body type. Like Rodriguez was a catcher. He's in the crouch 160 games a year or whatever. That's a guy that can take it. He had more speed, than Vladdy does. And it's a tough scenario given the 60-game schedule, because all this does is it could be one long slump, and I think it'll really suit some guys if you get on a streak, like a Teoscar Hernandez, or it'll ruin a season for a guy who can't seem to get out of a slump and string together a few games where you build your confidence and you're, okay, I went 3 for 4 yesterday, let's build on that kind of thing. And if you never get on that streak, it'll be a long season and it'll be a 60-game slump. So it takes one good game to start building some confidence, or even a good at bat. As you said, driving into 2 runs yesterday on a single. Try and build off that, especially facing Boston's weaker pitching. A series like this could help swing things, but I think it's a season that, again, given how short it is, it could just be where it's a nightmare for a guy who just almost doesn't want to go to the diamond anymore.
And I've had the benefit of being off work with COVID. I use the term benefit loosely, but I've been able to watch. I think I missed one Jays game, and that one game I ended up watching on 30 Blue Jays in 30 or whatever those replays. But I've seen most of the Jays games, at least most of the innings anyway. And I can say this about my theory with Vladdy is that just when you think he's starting to come out of it, and he'll have a 2 for 4 or a 3 for 5 game, he lays an egg the next night, and that for me is his conditioning.
Well, it's the not being able to take a pitch. He's too free swinging. There's a guy who should sit back, watch a guy like a Kevin Biggio, and say, look, like that guy just earned a walk or earned a good 3-1 pitch. He worked a count in his favor, got his pitch that he wanted to hit off this particular pitcher, whoever it may be, and got a base hit or hit the ball hard, like at least made a hard out, because he's chasing too many pitches that he's doing exactly what the pitcher wants. He's going to bury that breaking ball in the dirt, and Vladdy's taking a huge cut and coming up nowhere near it. Then he's down in the count, and now it's the pitcher's advantage, where he's saying, okay, what can I throw him now?
Biggio has like the best average in the majors of not swinging to balls that are not strikes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Very disciplined.
Yeah. Not swinging at balls.
Yep. And there's a guy who I think he goes up to bat with a game plan. Like a Bo Bichette has all the skill in the world, and he'll be an all-star. He'll do well, all that. I think Kevin Biggio, I think he's like a 5th-round pick. There's a guy who has to work at it, and I think he works at it day in, day out, both the hitting and the fielding. But there's a guy that you just sit back and you sort of like his dad, like plays hard every play, every at bat, every pitch. He's got a game plan. He's executing. And remember, I think it was last year we talked about don't let these guys play a shift on you. And he hasn't. He started bunting. He started going the opposite way. Now they're trying 4 outfielders against him. Because he hits so well. But
he learns, and he adapts
he adapts
fairly quickly. he takes coaching. So I don't, we're not going to see him not stretch out a rundown play to let somebody else score because he basically took the heat for that.
Right.
And I'm sure he's a guy who will learn. It's not going to be multiple times that they're going to have to tell him how to do things.
And how often do you see a clip of him on the bench where he's in someone's ear, like just talking to them about, hey, what's this guy throwing, or what did you see from him your first at bat, so on and so on. And as a leadoff hitter, he doesn't have the first class speed that he's gonna steal a bunch of bases, but he's gonna see, I'd say, at least 4 or 5 pitches in an at bat, which is gives everyone the information. Okay, what's this guy throwing? Where is he throwing to? He's gonna work the count. He's gonna try and get on. I think he's got 20 some walks already in the season. He's sort of that perfect on base guy.
Has he's already stolen and not isn't he stolen like 17 for 17 or 19 for 19 since he came in the league?
Oh, yeah, he's money.
Guys,
he has a 500 on base percentage.
Yeah.
He leads the league in on base percentage. He's played every game.
Exactly.
What he's doing is incredible. And I brought him up last year as a guy who I thought had the potential. I still think it's going to be Big Bo, but I thought Biggio has the potential to be the most complete player out of all those guys. But Bo Bichette was on fire before he got hurt. He was, specifically home runs. He was just hitting the ball wherever he wanted, anytime he wanted, and he was free swinging. Yeah. I just want to have one final comment on Guerrero before we move on to the outfield.
Is another fat thing?
No.
Give the kid a break.
No. Well, that's what I'm at. That's what I want to ask you guys. I want to ask you guys this.
I guess.
There's 2 trains of thought. I don't think anybody really knows how the coaches are handling him. Do they? There's one theory that suggests that they have him in handcuffs and they're telling him what to do too much. He gets to the plate and he looks over and he sees a sign and he's meant to hit. They're telling him to hit left. Or do you say, is he a wild horse and you just say swing away and you do you?
But either way, there's things you can do to mitigate what's happening. So if you're going to say, hey, he's a free swinger, let him go up there and have his rips, you bump him down in the order and you say, look, you're not getting it done right now. We'll move you up when you get hot, and just say it's just because you're not producing. If you're going to say, let's rein him in, then rein him in. Then say, take till first strike. You know what I mean? Crowd the plate, move up, do whatever you got to do to change your approach, because as it is now, you're not getting it done. So then you would customize, okay, for this guy, let's watch some tape. Here's how you're going to approach it. But it seems it's the same thing every time, no matter who's pitching, starter, reliever, what team they're facing, the scenario even. If there's guys on base, he's going up still hacking. So do something, either bump him down if you're going to give him free reign and say go for it, or make adjustments.
Are you asking what we think they're doing, or are you asking?
Yes, because Buck Martinez thinks they have him, wearing kid gloves. Buck Martinez thinks that they're doing the opposite. They're not letting him free swing.
I don't know about. I would say what they're doing is being overly patient with him. They're saying, pretty much what you said. Hey, he's a young guy. Let's take it easy, and no one cut him up. We're asking him to play different positions, and that's going to be an adjustment. It might take its toll on his average, but at the same time, and there was a few games where he was hitting well, but it just never carried on. But I would do one or the other. Either say, hey, we're bumping you down. We need someone with a higher average to knock in some runs here. Especially when you got a guy like Biggio who's getting on 50% of the time. Bichette, he's regularly on hitting extra base hits. So if he's on second base, we need that run in, or again, give him an approach. And if that's what it is, again, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing, he took too many pitches that time, or tried to, or anything like that. It's not indecisiveness.
He looks like he's swinging for the fences every time he goes up there, and I think that he's so strong that he can get like yesterday, a single for a 2-run single. But if we look at his numbers, he's not bad. For the average major leaguer, he's just a shade under 250. Mm-hmm. I think he's got about 4 or 5 home runs and a handful of
is that
a couple
his batting
dozen
average?
RBI.
A shade under 250 or his weight?
Hey, I thought we weren't going there anymore.
Part of me, I wonder, if he starts hitting more, more consistently will he actually drop weight because he'll be running around the bases a bit more, where now he's not.
That's a good point.
I don't know.
It's a good point.
I don't think his weight, to be honest, I'll speak. I don't think his weight, like, you're either an athlete or you're not, and you kind of handle it. I don't know if his issues scream to me that weight loss is going to fix that.
I agree. To me, he's always been a heavier set guy. Maybe not as heavy as he is now, but it's something I think he uses to his advantage. He's a power hitter who he has that not a big stride, but a heavy step. He's putting the weight into the ball.
He has a good weight shift.
Exactly.
His hips move. But
my argument is it's not so much the performance, it's the recovery. It's the can you withstand when they do go to 100 games, because they will not keep 60 games. Can he withstand a whole season? And only time will tell. So, Bo Bichette, up until the time he got hurt, was probably the best player in the majors. And I know there's been some guys. Fernando Tatis out in San Diego looks like he's Superman. But Bo Bichette was right up there in terms of every statistical category and playing a hell of a shortstop on top of that. We forget that he's moved. He was a second baseman in the minors, and now he's been asked to play the hot. That's a tough position to transition to as a young guy. I mean, so he has been as advertised in every department. When he comes back, where do you see him slotting in? Is he still going to hit 2, or can they drop him to 3 or 4? Should they keep that Biggio Bichette right at the top of the order, get things rolling? They have Gurriel and they have some other guys who can slug homers, but I mean, Bichette can hit homers with the best of them. Yeah,
to me, he's your number 2 because the slugging percentage, and he can take a pitch if Biggio is gonna steal a base or two, and then you've got, in my opinion, Grichuk hitting third. But to me, he's a guy you want to have more at bats. You want him up there as much as you can. But again, given Biggio's sort of tendency to get on base, I'd leave him in the leadoff role.
Grichuk has been probably the most pleasant surprise for me, considering he can go a month without getting a hit, let alone a home run. I think this 60-game season, even if he does end up slumping, which he eventually will, because just looking at his track record, he goes through prolonged slumps like most players do, but his are pretty ugly. But we may not see one in a 60-game season. There may not be enough time for him to get into a slump. So this is where a 60-game season can really benefit a guy like Grichuk. But, man, he's been hitting the cover off the ball. Your thoughts on Grichuk's year so far?
Well, it's funny because you look at the swing from Baltimore, where no one can keep that pace up, but he was on fire. He would have been showing up to the diamond, 6 hours early, so excited to play, and then playing in Tampa, and he did end up getting that. I think it was a 2 or 3 run homer in the final game, but prior to that, had done very little, and he's really a guy that. Like, again, in Baltimore, they did so well, and now I know Baltimore a 500 team, but and Tampa, leading the division, but to me, there's a guy that is the catalyst. He's a guy that can get you wins when he's hitting, and won't when you'll lose games when he's not. So he's a key piece to what they're doing, and that's regardless of how. Bichette is hitting, and that's assuming they're going to do the status quo. If Bichette's going to continue hitting, Biggio's going to continue getting on, and Vladdy's going to continue, at the rate he's at. But you need a guy like a Grichuk to set the table, to knock runs in, and he comes up in a lot of important situations.
Lourdes Gurriel Jr., hot and cold, but I'd say consistent. I think he's played pretty well. I think he's played the expectations of him, he sort of met them. He's starting to come on recently with showing some pop. He's played a decent field. He's not by no means is he going to be a Gold Glover. He doesn't read the ball well, but he's got a good arm. He makes the routine plays, and his bat has shown up. So I'm really happy with Gurriel. In a few words, what do you think about his play?
I couldn't agree more. I think you hit the nail on the head there. He's a cannon of an arm, which he showed off a couple times recently. But he's a guy that you expect him to contribute regularly, and not be a liability in the field.
And I think that's exactly what he's done. And kudos to him because he's coming off an injury. He didn't, and of course they didn't really have much of a preseason. So good for him. Teoscar Hernandez. Early on in the season, I was all over this guy not because of his bat, although he was striking out a lot, which he usually does. It was more for his defense. But I'll focus on the positives here. He has the most home runs in the American League.
Really?
Tied, I think.
That's
tied for first.
Tied for first.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Wow.
For a guy, he's a free swinger. He's hit or miss. He's got a decent batting average. I like the fact that he got on himself for making an error the other day. Showing some emotion, and it shows that he cares because he's got a sort of a lackadaisical look to him, right? Like he's always smiling and all the sunflower seeds and all that stuff. And
so, what did he do to get on himself?
I think this particular one was a sort of a basic a base hit, a single, and it kind of went under his glove and went back to the wall. That was the day after he had made a really bad error. So I think that particular move or that particular error, he went to the dugout, he slammed his glove down, didn't really talk to anybody. It's the first time anyone's seen emotion from him, and the commentators had mentioned it. Dan Shulman had mentioned, hey, it's nice to see some emotion. He's clearly upset about it. It cost his team a run. If not, I think it was the game, if I'm not mistaken. So good to see him improving. But the bad is his defense. His defense is just atrocious. He's got a good arm. I'll give him that. But his reads, the one night, Brock, I think we were talking about it, where he let a fly ball land in front of him.
Oh, in the top of the seventh.
Yeah, I don't think you realize it was a seven. It wasn't a seven inning game because it was a doubleheader
game, and or it was a makeup from the day before, something like that.
Yeah, maybe he didn't know the score, the time, the hits, the whatever. He just sort of
there's
had
no
a brain
urgency
fart.
whatsoever, and they ended up scoring, and they couldn't make it back. That cost them the game.
Yes, and the day after is when he made the error where he got upset with himself. So that being said, I mean it speaks to a huge problem with the Jays this year. Their base running has been probably the worst I've ever seen. They are terrible on the bases. And I'm not talking about the speed because they're not a terribly fast team. I'm talking about their decisions. Like, who is coaching them up? Like, you've got Travis Shaw, who's the slowest guy in the majors, rounding third when the ball is just getting into the outfielder's glove. Like, what are you doing, Luis Rivera? It's 6-7 years of this with this guy. I mean, he's killing them.
To be honest, because he's been there for a long time, and there were times where I was like, oh my God, stop stopping them at third. Make them, I know they're good, they're professionals, but make them make a play to stop you from scoring. And I felt like he was holding people up way too often. So I don't mind the aggressiveness. I don't mind making that guy who's getting paid millions of dollars to make that throw that he's supposed to make. But it's extremely hard. And the timing's got to be perfect, and the bounce has to be perfect, and the catcher's got to be. There's so many things that can go wrong, but if you stop him at third, those things are all obsolete. Doesn't matter. You take them away, and I felt like he was holding them up. So to me, I don't mind the aggressiveness. Be aggressive. Make the other team make the play to stop you, because I guess also from a standpoint, the Jays have been, for the last little while, notorious for winning and dying by the home run. Mm-hmm. So either you make the home run, but generating a run and saying, we got a guy on third, let's do whatever we got to do to get him in, is not necessarily their strong suit. So move them, run them, make them beat us that way, and I'm okay with it.
It's all situational, though. You with the bottom of their order, you got Jansen and Espinal now for Bo Bichette. These are two guys hitting sub 200. So if you get your number 7 to get a hit that and you got a guy going second to home or first to home, you might try and score him, because odds of those two guys cashing a run in, not very likely. And as you say, they do live by the home run. in a to the point that it's sad that they just can't manufacture runs. So but you wouldn't do it with a Bichette coming up or even a Biggio, But again, I do agree that there are tons of mistakes that cost them big and that are questionable on the bases. And you're looking around saying, what are they doing? Like this is
what do they do? Like, yeah,
it's like they've never or haven't come up and played baseball in the minors to get them there. So yeah, there's frustrations for sure. And is it part of being a young team? I wouldn't have thought so, not to the degree that we're seeing, but the entire team is young. So, but again, you would expect that there's some adjustments made, and as you said, Pep, someone's being talked to and said, "Hey, don't do that anymore," yeah.
That's just base running. I haven't even talked about the defense, the base running itself. I mean, and I'm not just singling out or spotlighting Luis Rivera, who I think hasn't been very good for 5 years. And Brock, you're right. I like the aggression, but it's situational. It's all situational. Like, you've got nobody out, why push them? You got nobody out. I don't care who's coming up. If there's nobody out, you drop a bunt or you squeeze play or whatever.
Nobody out, I agree. That's fine. But again,
things like that,
speaking, I've seen him not run people where I'm just, we're giving too much credit to the other team and their outfielders and what they can do, and I just think you got to make them beat you. Don't beat ourselves, and that's what. So
one night he'll round Shaw, but he'll hold Espinal, and we're like, why? What? He's the fastest guy on the team, and you've held him. And then the next night, he's telling Shaw to round the base. Like, there was a couple of times last week or the week before where Shaw was out by a mile. Yeah. So I don't. Anyway, I don't. You could spend a whole podcast on Luis Rivera. Might be the first time. I think we've given Luis Rivera the most publicity he's ever gotten as a coach or a player. But when I talk about not only has base running cost them, but their defense has been. I mean, it's probably been the worst in the majors. Mm-hmm. I think, by all analysts, all experts have said the Jays' defense is pretty bad. Mm-hmm. Missed throws, missed cutoffs.
Well, there's the error part of it, and then there's the balls they just don't get to that, a regular major league outfielder position player would get to. And it's again, you can see pitchers sometimes turn around and they're like, that was a double play ball, or that was an out. I won that battle with the hitter, and the outfielder didn't make the play. And it's backbreaking. It's frustrating because it's a two-way swing. Now you're going from nobody on and one out to a guy on second and nobody out, or a guy on first and nobody out. So it's a backbreaker when the pitcher battles and those kind of things happen and you come up short, and because now you're going from the stretch, you're looking at a whole different thing. Speaking of stretching,
totally. It's a great transition. I was trying to move the camera over because his face is kind of cut off, so I was trying to expand it, and it doesn't expand. So I was like, I got to get my toe onto the tripod. Anyway,
I'm enjoying the arm of the chair.
Wow. Yes, I agree with all of that, and I think it's a situation where these guys are in the majors for a reason, and I think defense it's coaching. Well, I think Montoyo has to firm up and say, listen, you got to stand here, you got to be here, you got to be here, and this is, if the ball goes here, you're going to here. Yep. Like, it's someone's missing a sign, or what's going on out there.
In a year where you're playing this condensed schedule, all these games in this short amount of time, this is when your pitch count matters most. The number of batters you face matter most. All these things have an effect, because if you're out there for more pitches than you need to be, where you're giving the other team outs, it has a domino effect. Now this guy's in longer, can't pitch tomorrow. Now you're going to another guy to come in to face the lefty or do whatever to get you out of this inning that isn't necessary or shouldn't be necessary if your defense comes up with a play.
in a few words or less, how do you feel about the battery? How do you feel about the catchers and the pitchers? Well, I won't go into the pitching quite yet, but how do you feel about Jansen and McGuire so far? I thought they've been played pretty well myself. But.
I'm a big Jansen fan, but he's got to come around with the bat. He's got to start getting stuff done. And I know he had a 2-run single there the other day, but he was thrown out at second. But
Yeah.
I was so positive on him, and I cut him a lot of slack last year because he was learning to catch a lot of different players that he never caught before. First year, full year in the pros, but at some point you have to deliver, and then it's sort of he left the door open for McGuire, and he hasn't seized it. He hasn't come in and been lights out where you're saying, okay, it's his job to lose now, or he's won the job. But one thing I'll say about Reese McGuire, he made what I thought was one of the headiest plays that from a rookie, and I've never seen anyone do this. There was a runner on first, and I think he called the pitcher to throw to first, and it was a breaking ball count. So, and then he pats the ground with his glove, meaning, I want this one in the dirt, make this one a nasty one. And that, I think in the base runner's mind, I'll take an extra step. Here's a guy, he's going to throw this pitch in the dirt. Who knows if it gets by the catcher, I'm going to second, or maybe he's thinking I'm going to steal. And the pitcher throws over to first, and they got him. And to me, I've never seen anybody do that, and it was like, wow. One, I can't believe I haven't seen that before. Now that I think about it, But two, smart play. I don't know where he picked that up, but and if that's the kind of stuff he's going to bring, then I'd give him more of an opportunity. And again, it was eye opening for me because I was more of a Jansen guy, but. Between the two of them, if one of them can seize that position and say, no, I'm the guy, give me more innings. But I think it'll primarily be a split the majority of the season.
Yeah, and I don't see Caleb Joseph factoring in at all. He's their third catcher. He's a veteran that they brought in for depth. But I do see, again, this is a little bit of pressure on them now. They got to perform. I think now that they have a fourth option, who probably won't see the field this year, but Alejandro Kirk is a hitting machine, and he's in the minors, which there are no minors this year, but he's a player on their radar. Again, little heavier guy, slower, defensively scored below average, but can hit the ball everywhere. He was on fire before the shutdown.
Yep. Yeah. Everyone was positive on him in spring training.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I look forward to seeing him maybe take a step up next year. We'll see what happens with if there is a next year, anyways. But
I like how the first thing you say about the guy is a heavier guy.
Well, speed wise, anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Give a mental picture.
Catchers are generally not the fastest guys.
It'd be nice to get a catcher to replace the consistency of a Russell Martin. Like that's secure. That he was like a safety net back there.
He was
catching. It was nice to have.
Russell's last 2 years were awful. Like he wasn't a great catcher, and he was. I mean, he only hit 200 his last year there. So I mean, it was time for a young guy to step up. But we've talked about practically the entire defense, except third base. Have they made a decision with third and first? Are they going to stick with Vladdy at first and platoon him with guys like Tellez and Vogelback, who they picked up from Seattle for cash considerations?
Heavier
a guy who had 30 home runs.
Mm-hmm. All-star last year. It's going to be that thing of find the best 9 you can suit up, and as silly as it is, I think that's Vladdy at third just to get Tellez and the possibility of Vogelback in the game. So as much as we're talking about defensive woes, it may only continue based on that, at least at third base.
Has Vladdy played third this year yet?
No, they went ahead.
He hasn't,
but I know he was taking ground balls over the weekend and stuff. So it's sort of that once Vogelback gets settled, I guess it's a matter of time.
Because Shaw hasn't seized that opportunity. He's made a couple of plays, but I don't think Shaw is the long-term anything really for them.
No.
He's a one-year guy, and he looks unmotivated. I don't think he's even happy to be in Toronto. He just kind of has a look to him. But Drury's played well as a platoon guy. He's played. Drury has a great glove. I don't think his glove is ever in question. But the third base is an asterisk. They haven't figured that out. Is Bichette going to move over there? Is Austin Martin going to play somewhere in the infield? Like there's some questions for sure. Vogelbach, let's we may curb our enthusiasm, Blue Jays fans. He hit 30 homers last year, but he only hit 9 after the All-Star break, and I believe he was hitting .50 since the latter part of last year to now. .050.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know if I haven't seen enough of him to say pitchers have figured him out or whatever, but we'll see what happens. Like, as you say, low expectations. Give him a shot. You're not losing much. It's not like anybody's cleaning up out there. So
they didn't give up much for him, did they?
No, cash. So give him a shot. And the only thing is with the tightness of the schedule, the number of games you're playing in a number of days. Every roster spot is pretty important. But definitely, I'd send him out there and see what you got.
Speaking of what you got, I don't know if Pep is with us anymore. He froze a bit. So the whole like dead silence and awkward silence. Are you still with us?
We're gonna go with he's not there.
So I was just looking at
he's returning his Vogelbach jersey.
That's what he's got in the back. Although everything's going now, is that possible?
I'm frozen.
I think. Did our camera not even go? The hell?
It's off.
This is wonderful. Are we still live? Bear with us. We're going to go and we're going to play some music here for a second.
Trust you, me, I'll blow up shop. Have a little nick calling the cops. Watch. I rock the party that rocks the body. You rock the party that rocks the body. I rock the party that rocks the body. You rock the party that rocks the body. I rock the party that rocks the body. You rock the party that rocks the body, body, body.
All right, so that was our DJ interlude. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We are now going GoPro versus the other camera. I cannot.
This is a good one shot. Close up.
I cannot figure this thing out for the life of me. I need to get a plug-in for these cameras. Honestly, I have no clue. It's going so well for the longest part, and then it dies. So if anybody out there knows what the what the hell's going on, please let me know. That being said, hey, that's pretty much the Jays at this point. Let's go with a quick. What do you think they're going to finish? How do you think they're going to finish? They're going to finish in the playoffs? They're going to finish outside the playoffs, looking in? What is it? What's your prediction?
I'm going to say they're going to finish in the playoffs. They're rumored on all these to be in on all these pitchers. I hope they don't sell the farm. I hope they don't go all in.
Yeah, you're a big advocate of not making these moves. Is it not making these moves yet, or is it not making these moves, period?
It's not making these moves, period. It's a 60-game season. You lose, you get 2 key injuries, and there's your season. If they're gone 10 games, and the Bo Bichette thing kind of proves me wrong on that. But it's just a thing where I wouldn't do it. You get one bad streak, one bad break, and your season's done. So I would not. I would err on the side of caution. If you're not, right now you're 500. If you were 7 games above, sure, start looking. But it's 2. It could go either way right now.
What if they have an option to actually make a push for the World Series? Do they make that push?
So you mean they just start winning one after the other, starting now?
Yeah, let's just say like they're actually trying to make a push. Like, just because it's a 60-game season, does that mean they shouldn't be fighting for it? Shouldn't be trying to get there?
Again, I think you'd know if you were the elite of the elite by now, and they just haven't demonstrated that.
All right.
Specifically in close games and stuff like that. So I wouldn't.
I think the Jays do well. I think they start to find the rhythm at some point. They haven't really seemed to have gotten that yet, in my opinion. As for the trades, I'm not really opinionated either way. I like, the fact I don't want to sell a farm. I like that. They've been building something since those the new GM and stuff came in. follow that plan. Don't deviate just because of the 60 games. But if there are moves to be made that are beneficial now and beneficial in the future, then do it. Pull the trigger. Don't be scared to do that.
And that could be like there's a bunch of good quality players out there, and if those guys are available and they're not asking too much, then go for it. But if and some of them are under contract for multiple years, so maybe you make that deal. Pep, do you want to mouth the words and I'll just look? It'll look like I'm talking or you're talking. No, but. It's something, again, I wouldn't sell the farm. I wouldn't get rid of anybody on the roster. But maybe you do make a deal, if the price is right.
I hear you. And you guys see Pierre. That's all you see? Because, I don't know,
yeah.
I had to switch cameras. And
Sorry, boys. My internet cut out completely. So I tried to log back on the using the modem, but right now I'm using Wi-Fi just so I can get back on for the last part of this. You guys are talking trades, or we talk pitching? Did we talk? What did I miss?
What you missed is us signing off because this episode is finished, and
right,
especially now this is perfect for a test thing because you're choppy again. So that little dongle we got and plugging in with the Ethernet works wonderfully. We got to continue to do that. I still haven't figured out cameras for the life of me. We had an hour strong, and then things died on us. But I want to thank Mike for coming out here to join us. Mike's got a last...
I could just, with all the technical difficulties, but the love seat, I think, worked perfectly.
The love seat worked perfectly, beautifully. I got to get you a little TV tray or something.
Yes. Yeah.
Because your makeshift armrest is not great. But we'll figure that out for next time.
Good. Lakers and Blazers just canceled their game, so it looks like the NBA's canceled everything tonight. We'll see if that transpires tomorrow, too, with the Raptors and Celtics game 1. So we'll see what happens there. And sorry for the technical difficulties. What can I say, Brock? It was actually the piece that I was using that malfunctioned, so I'll keep at it, and we'll get this right one day.
Hey, I say, we've got a longer show today without issues, and if it's an hour in and they say, you know what, that's it for that, that's fine. That's a good way of keeping us on schedule. We only got an hour. Let's make best use of it. So we're going to go out to the song that most people just heard on the break because I had it loaded up anyway. It was chosen because I've joined a fantasy football league that is a dynasty league. I finally got into it, so I'm taking over somebody else's team. And the choices that I have to make right now in terms of cap room, all that kind of stuff is crazy. So I did... I started playing the Black Sheep this or that because it's all about choices. And this is where we're going out to.
Here they come. Here they come, yo. Here they come. Here they come. This or that. 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 This or that.
Come on, who's the black sheep? What's the black sheep? Know not who I am or when I'm coming, so you sleep. Wasn't in my realm or wasn't in your sphere. Knew not who I was, but listen here. Yes, I guess I can start. If it's alright with you, I'll rip this head joint apart. Back middle to the front, don't front. Want a good time, wanna give you what you want. Can I hear a hey? Hey, get it, yo? You got a hat, it's for the house. The styling is creative, black sheep of the native. Can be violated or even decepticated. I got brothers in the jungle, cousins on the quest. Dead-retorted uncles and big worries may they rest. Guess which way, what, when, how? Mr. Long Dress, black sheep slam now. Know you heard the others, only to the lovers. The choice is yours. You can get with this or you can get with that.